Hey guys, welcome into the show. My name is Tyler Kluver. I'm a former Division 1 athlete. I now run a fitness coaching business as well as a sports media brand that creates podcasts, sells merchandise, and creates other exclusive content. This show is a place for me to document my thoughts on fitness, health, nutrition, maybe some business or mindset stuff, as well as update anyone listening on my own competitive fitness endeavors and life events. I want everybody that comes and listens to this show to take something away that can make their life better, whether it's a diet or fitness tip or a way of thinking about things that motivates you to be better in your own life. Hopefully, we can get that done. But regardless, I'm glad you're here. Let's have a day. Let's go. I don't think he did it. I'm just saying, a couple days here after they supposedly found the CEO, the healthcare CEO killer, I don't think Luigi did it, man. I don't think he did it. And that sounded that the start of that sounded like a Theo Vaughn podcast, but Luigi Mangione, guy looks like a Calvin Klein model. They found him in a McDonald's with the weapon 5 days later. I don't know. Seems a little fishy to me. Welcome into the Snap Podcast, but it's actually not the Snap Podcast. It's the Walk On Performance Podcast. And that's what we're going to call it from now on. I'm going to have to change this overlay. I'm going to have to change the name of the whole goddamn thing. But here we are, the Walk On Performance Podcast. And that could be, that's just all encompassing. Walk On, that references the mentality that we bring to this thing, the mentality that I live life with. Obviously, the path that I took through college football, a path that no longer can be taken, at least in the current legislation of Division I football. Walk-ons are essentially obsolete. They're not completely dead, but they are effectively dead. And maybe that's something we get into on here at some point. Definitely talk about it on the walk-ons if you're a fan of that. We're going to talk about a couple things today. The main one is one that might be controversial, and I'm okay with that because it's something I stand on heavily. This is like business that I truly stand on. For the topic of today's podcast, it's about your health and what your family deserves out of you, specifically if you have a partner and kids, eventually grandkids. I just don't think some guy named Luigi murdered a healthcare CEO. Don't think he did it. Anyway, we'll have a couple fun things to recommend at the end of this thing and a fun update on the Miami competition, CrossFit competition that I'll be doing in just about 6 weeks. It's going to be here before you know it. So, today's topic, and this was sparked partially because I'm in the middle of the newest Huberman Lab podcast featuring Dr. Kelly Starrett, a guy who has been around in the CrossFit community for a very long time, author of Supple Leopard, all about mobility, getting into good biological positions, being functional. And he's talking about on this podcast the necessity for functional movement up through the back half of your life. And it sparked a topic that I've heard or thought about or listened to podcasts about many, many times. And that is, what are you functionally after 45, 50 years old? What does that look like? Not to be an elite athlete, not to be who I am today. And that's maybe a stretch there. I'm not going to call myself an elite athlete by any means. I'm not. But functionally, both fitness and just capability wise in life, I'm talking going up the stairs or going up a lot of stairs. One that came up this week was getting up on a ladder, being able to fucking carry the ladder out of the garage to the front of the house, extend it, and then walk yourself up it to go put Christmas lights up on the roof. That was a fun athletic challenge for me that like, I think I overlooked what getting up on the roof was, athletically, physically. I didn't have any trouble with it. I just had to consciously put a little bit more effort into walking on the roof. And granted, I probably should have tied my shoes when I went up there. That was an issue. But I thought about my own parents who are not quite 60 years old, and I thought about them even 10 years ago. Would they have been able to get up on a ladder and pull themselves up onto a roof and feel comfortable to not fall off of that thing and put up Christmas lights? Or go one step further back. Maybe that's a little bit out of context. I don't think it is, but maybe it's a little bit far. What if they had an attic and they had something stored in the attic and they needed to get up into there? This works itself all the way back down to what Huberman and Starrett were talking about in the podcast, which was the most basic thing and the most functional thing, and inevitably, probably the most relevant thing in life, and that's getting up off the ground. It's a joke, the commercials with the Lifeline necklace that says, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up." There's a reason that's a thing, and it's sad. And that's because God, I think it would piss me off to know the number, but I would love to know if there was a if you laid down an adult 70 or older. Fuck it, we'll go all the way out. What percentage of adults 50 and older, if you laid them on the ground, could get up off the ground? It's not 100%. 60 and older, that number grows. 70 and older, I bet that number skyrockets. 80 and older? How many people 80 and older could, if you laid them on the ground, get up it under their own power, push themselves up off the ground to a standing position? I imagine if I asked every single one of you listening that question and I said, "Hey, at 80 years old, wouldn't you like to be able to get up off the ground by yourself?" You'd say, "Yeah." I mean, yeah, duh. I don't think it's that much of a given if you looked at the statistics. Oh, and by the way, that's if you make it to 80 years old. And I think that's a failure. And now if you reverse engineer this theory, this idea back to, we'll just use myself as an example. I turned 30 years old about 3 months ago. I've entered my 30s decade. It's my 30s era, baby. I have a child. And we'll just say it on here because we announced it anyway. I have a second child on the way. Congrats to me. In 8 months, 7 months, I will be a father of 2 children, 2 young kids. Currently a father of 1. She's about as active as you could be. And of course, I'm a husband. What is my responsibility physically to my wife and kids? In a macro sense, I believe, and this is sort of a concept that I came up with the other day, and it extends out to that the front half of this discussion where I talk about when you're 50, 60, and 70. There's some caveats there. As you age, yeah, you're going to deal with some shit and you are going to lose functionality off your top end, right? In 30 years, when I'm 60 years old, if I can still clean and jerk 315, something fucking magical happened with technology and science. Okay? But at 60 years old, I'd like to be able to clean and jerk 155, maybe 185. That'd be pretty cool. Be a fit, strong 60. I mean, there's some dudes at 60 that are strong as an ox still. I'd like to still be functional in that movement pattern. I'd like to still be able to do stuff, get up off the ground, run around with my grandkids, hopefully at that point. And what does that look like when you're raising your own children? I believe, and this is sort of the punchline, if you are not physically capable of doing every single thing that your children are capable of doing through the time that they live under your roof, let's call it 18, through their senior year of high school. And you don't have to do it to the extent. Like, you're not going to be able to, let's say I had a kid at 29 or whatever, 28. My kids are going to be, I'm going to be about 46 to 45 to 50 years old when they're in high school, about to graduate high school. Will I be able to sprint as fast as my children? Like absolute speed? Maybe not. I'd like to think I might. But will I be able to sprint relative to what I am at that time, 45, 50 years old? You're damn right. I will be able to sprint and not pull a hamstring and be physically fit to do that, unlike most 45 to 50-year-olds. Would I be able to go on hikes, on vacations, or long walks on vacations where you're on a beach or you're on an island? Or would I be able to swim in the ocean with my kids on a vacation to Florida or XYZ? They want to go kayaking or you know, uh, uh, white, white river, white rapid, fucking, what's it called? Rafting, do some crazy shit. Will I be able to do all that through the time that they're out of my house? I think you're failing your kids if you can't, and your family. You are limiting your top end experience with your children and your entire family physically by doing that. And if you're and I believe that the physical abilities of you and the expression of, obviously, it's my whole life. I'm going to be biased to it. But I think your physical capabilities and what you can go do as a human, moving your body throughout this earth and this life, is very, very important. And if you can't do everything that your kids can do, go rock climbing, whatever it may be, through the time that they're living under your roof and you're raising them, you failed. And that, for some of you listening, might not be an issue. For some of you, it might. And I'm not trying to take a shot at you personally. It is just a wake-up call to say, shit, maybe I should work on this, this, and this a little bit more. Just a little bit more. If I put that out there as an opinion on Twitter, I think it would get there would be some comments on it. Let's just say that. So I'll repeat it here just to close that conversation. If you cannot physically do, and you are not physically capable of the things that your children are through the time that they live under your roof, you're failing your family. That is my disposition. That's all I have to say about it. Guess what? Your boy doesn't have to swim in Miami. Let's fucking go, everybody. Clap it up. We love to hear it. Come on now. Got a email this past weekend, the official rule book, 16 pages worth of appeals, and here's where the medical tent is, and here's the hotel travel information. Here's where the setup will be on the beach. Every fucking detail you could possibly get on the Wadapalooza CrossFit competition. I believe they call it a fitness festival. Very exciting. I'm getting excited as it draws closer. This event, this competition, is always known, being in Miami on the beach, as having a swimming component. And one of the bolded workout clarifications this year was there will not be a swimming workout this year. Now, if you're in the CrossFit community or anywhere near the fitness community, you would know the reason of this, and that is because at the CrossFit Games this past year, somebody died. Somebody drowned in the lake in Texas during their swim And so basically, every major CrossFit competition or event is kind of saying we're going to hold off on the swimming for a little bit because that's a bad look. Great for your boy. It means I don't have to spend 2 to 3 months worth of. Did you guys know a fucking YMCA membership is $65 for an individual? That's what I was gonna have to spend to go practice swimming the next 2, 3 months. I guess it would have been God, it would have been, 2 months. I would have spent 130 bones to go practice swimming once a week to be dog shit in the ocean in 6 weeks. No longer have to do that. Don't have to worry about it. Very, very thankful, very happy. So that's the update from the Miami competition. That is good for me slash our team. And then finally, I put this under like new hobbies or new things, but it's not really. It's relevant to business, relevant to anybody that creates content. If you are someone who creates pieces of content, does a podcast, or just has a personal brand, you like to put out your own videos and have fun with that. Obviously, technology and editing capabilities and accessibility to video editing with captions and cuts and all this stuff has been wildly advanced for the basically since 15 years ago when I started to try and dabble with video editing as a hobby in high school. I found 2 clips that are AI based. AI is, we've heard about it for the last few years. It's taking over. I haven't found a real use for it in my personal or professional life yet until now. In 2025, the washed up walk ons clips and potentially the walk on performance, if it's this easy and I get a hang of it, could seriously up the amount of content that's being produced with this AI software. 2 different softwares that I'm playing with right now, Opus Clip, OPUS Clip, and Descript. Both softwares where you can load in, like, I could take this podcast, the file that spits out after I finish this podcast, load it into there. It will give you a full transcript and create clips on its own based on its AI software of recognition and what it thinks would go viral. And it'll give you an outline, it'll give you show notes, it'll give you YouTube descriptions. It's unbelievable what this software does. So there's a chance I might even start recording in the Descript software because it has that capability, and then that makes the clip production even easier. So we're gonna see what that looks like. But if anybody is interested in creating clips at mass, this is I don't mention a ton of business things on here very often, but this Opus Clip slash Descript software is pretty insane, and you can get like almost full functionality for 250 bucks a year, which for a company is pennies. It's pennies. That's all we got this week. Your boy doesn't have to swim in Miami, and if you're not functional, you're failing your family. Hard truth, hard to swallow pills, but the good news is you can always do something about it. You can always get better. I've already got an hour session in the books today, boys and girls. We have an hour on the Peloton later. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Don't think I'm not. Go be a savage. Have a great fucking week. We'll talk next week. See you then.